Hey everyone, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob.
And this is our podcast, Hello Movies, My Old Friend.
Hello, movies. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. My old friend.
Yes, everyone, this is our last episode.
Woo!
Last episode for 2025 with Hello Movies, My Old Friend. Rob, what are we going to try to get accomplished here?
All right, Ray, on Hello Movies, My Old Friend, you and I revisit old classics from our childhood, movies we haven't seen in a thick minute, as Mr. Kitty Kaiji would say, and see if they still hold up.
Yeah, I think I'm approaching probably 23, 25 years since I've seen this movie that we're going to talk about today. Saw it, a couple times once it came out and really loved it, really enjoyed it.
I do remember that.
And the movie we're talking about
is the 1999 sports comedy drama Mystery Alaska.
And it's freezing cold here in Florida, so it's glad that we picked a hockey movie.
No, it's just gonna make me
Yearn.
At least feel like it's cold, at least in my mind.
Yeah. I remember Mr. Alaska being really funny, and this is actually, I'm a huge hockey fan now, but I was not a huge hockey fan back then. I really didn't come into hockey until like when I was in college in like the mid 2004s and 5s and stuff. So this movie was even like I enjoyed this movie even before I enjoyed hockey. I'm hoping I'm going to enjoy it more now.
Yeah. I do remember really enjoying this movie. You know, one thing I did not
You always
remember,
were a hockey fan.
I've always been a hockey fan. And I cannot believe that Russell Crowe is in this movie.
I know.
I'm like, I did not remember that at all.
That classic combo of Russell Crowe and Burt Reynolds.
Right. Hank Azaria is in this movie. Lolita Davidovich, Cole Meany. I mean, there's a lot of really interesting people in this movie. And it's crazy. I cannot, I don't remember that much about it. I know that there was like an exhibition game that they were supposed to play against like the New York Rangers. Yeah, the New York Rangers. And I do remember one scene where a guy, it's like, I don't know if it was like a hazing thing or what, where he has to like slide across the ice on his bare ass.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I do. I think I do.
That is this movie, right?
It is.
Okay.
I think, or you're tricking me. Is this like the Sinbad thing where like everybody remembers Sinbad as a genie, but he never
happened.
Was?
That's definitely a Matrix glitch right there, because that movie definitely existed at some point in my life.
It's funny when we've done these, I feel like we've been 50-50. Maybe for the year-end episode, we go back and tally if we really have enjoyed going back to these old movies.
Yeah, I think 50-50 would be generous, to be honest.
We really haven't liked a lot of them.
Yeah.
Either we're doing a bad job at picking them, or like a lot of the movies just weren't good that we used to like.
We used to really like crappy movies.
Yeah.
And now we've gotten a lot not to like
our taste
better
is so much
movies.
better.
Exactly.
Yes, we've developed our palate.
But hopefully Mystery Alaska is not that.
No, I really want this one to hold up. I want us to end 2025 strong.
Absolutely. And that is what we are going to do, and that's what you should do as well. We are at that part of the podcast where if you have not seen Mystery Alaska, we invite you to pause the podcast, go watch Mystery Alaska, come back, and see if Ray and I think this movie still holds up.
Ray and Rob are currently watching the film. You may be also watching the film. If you're not, then you're listening to me say that Ray and Rob are watching the film. They'll be right back when they're done watching the film.
All right, everyone. Ray and I are back from Mystery Alaska. It's cold there. It's cold. Everybody seemed to be cold in this movie. If they weren't from Mystery.
So refreshing.
It is.
Being Floridians. So.
That's fair. I'm jealous, actually. But I'm going to say this is probably the tied for the newest movie that we've done for this podcast, because I think Blair Witch was 99 as well. 90. So I was shocked how much of this movie I had forgotten.
Yeah, I think I definitely remembered way more of Blair Witch than this.
Yeah, it's super interesting, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
think we'll have to discuss it. I think we'll find it in the conversation.
Is this movie that forgettable? I guess, we're going to have to discuss it and see. But I kept thinking that the whole time that I'm watching this movie. I'm like, I remember watching this movie. I remember liking this movie, but I do not remember this happening.
Or this.
Or this.
But one thing I was surprised that I did not remember were some of the big cameos. Like Mike Myers is in this?
I did not remember Mike Myers being in this at all. Yeah, Michael McKean, I did not remember Michael McKean being in this at all.
Phil Esposito, who is huge with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I've been listening to for the last 20 years, but I was not into hockey when this movie came out. So I did not remember him being in this. So it was actually really cool this time to see him in this and listen to him broadcast the game, just like I listened to him on the radio broadcast Bolts games. So that was kind of a weird little tie into just local.
They had
life.
Quite a few major hocky people in the just broadcasters, and stuff like that. So Barry Melrose was in the movie. Yep. There was a couple of one. Steve Levy was in it as well. Yeah. So there was definitely a few of those which were cool. Kind of set the mood for the movie.
Yeah, it kind of puts it in the real world instead of just this mystery town of Alaskan where you're like, is this a real town or not? But I will say, I did like the setup of the town this time again, like what it's like there, and really like the idea of the Saturday game they have. I think that really I think the movie does a great job of setting that up early.
Yeah, those first 10 minutes are really strong in that regard, kind of setting up the myth of the game and the legend surrounding it, and just the way that the rules are set up and played and all of this, like the way it kind of, it makes it kind of visceral, I guess, compared to like a professional hockey, which obviously becomes a central part of the movie.
Right.
But I think, but it's also interesting to me how they, kind of set this stage in the first 10 minutes about this game, how important this game is, the way that, this is like the best of the best of mystery, and like there's kind of this myth around it. But then, the rest of the movie, it's like, are we any good?
Right.
So, I think that's it. It's interesting because it's kind of like, you knock down the myth early, but so it could feel off. Right. You know what I mean? So it's like, as they're going into this game with the Rangers, it's like, do we suck? You know what I mean? Like,
well, and I actually think that would be a really interesting question throughout the movie. If everybody was dealing with that question,
sure.
But I will say, I think a drawback of this movie is there's so much going on, and so kind of almost unrelated in some ways.
Yeah.
That it's like you kind of feel like you're losing track of some threads.
Sure.
Because I agree with you. Like I think this because Russell Crowe even kind of questions, like you said, like we've got this, this Saturday game, we only play 4-on-4. There's no boards,
right.
There's nothing to keep the puck in the ice. So I guess that would probably really
that ice looks rough as hell when you're watching.
There's no Zamboni.
No Zamboni. Like that ice looks rough as hell.
And so it kept on being like, well, we want this to be how we play the Rangers, like in our environment, and then that doesn't happen. Like, oh, they're gonna fight to get these rule backs. Like Charlie's gonna become a hero and get the boards taken away. I'm like, no, that doesn't happen. And then you're like, well, we are gonna, we have to battle with worrying if the Rangers are going to embarrass us and we're going to lose our whole identity as a town. But they really don't question that in the movie too much, which I think would have been a great storyline to explore. So it's like, they kind of get muddled in some of these things.
Yeah. No, and part of that is the size of the cast. When you got a whole team, sometimes you got to feel like you got to fill everybody out, or and in the end, it's not that you shouldn't, but I think there's a lot of storylines that don't have anything to do with the game, and sometimes that can be difficult because it takes the focus away.
Yeah, and I love a good sports movie.
Oh yeah.
But when you really center, like if you think about something like a Rudy, like Rudy is about Rudy, Rudy and a couple of his friends. Not about, and there's a couple people on the team, but it's not about the team.
Right.
Like a movie like Miracle, which is probably like my favorite hockey movie of all time.
Definitely.
That does
Slapshot. Come on.
Slapshot's right. Yeah, they're right up there. That involves Miracle's about the team, and they have they do have a lot of time devoted to each player.
Yeah.
But everybody has the same goal. Like everything is very centered. Like they're going through the same experience.
Right.
Where, like I said, like you kind of mentioned, this movie, like there's a lot of characters and they're trying to round them out, but they're not going through the same experiences. Some are dealing with having sex for the first time.
Right.
Some are dealing with having sex way too many times. Some are dealing with getting old. Some are dealing with finding their inner strength. It's like some are dealing with daddy issues. Like they all have separate things, so everything is kind of feels a little thin.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not as a writer, I definitely know like you should give your side characters arcs. Like
Right.
I'm not saying
you don't want
shouldn't
flat
at
characters.
all. Right, you definitely don't want flat characters. But when you start adding layer upon layer upon layer, like you said, like certain things don't end up really feeling fulfilling at the end because it just kind of happens.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of them with characters that I do feel like they wrap up relatively easily and they feel weird. I think the main one for me is probably Skank and like his affair with the mayor's wife.
Yeah.
Like that whole angle, like while it is, intriguing as far as the narrative goes, once it all kind of explodes and, the whole affair is found out, for me, the scene where Skank comes to him and is like, I'm good. I may have slept with your wife a lot, but I'm going to win this game for you because I know that'll make you look really good. I'm just like, is that enough? Yeah. Like, is that enough to overcome the anger of infidelity?
And the mayor looks shocked the whole time. Like, he's even asking the same question. Like, you can't apologize for this. And I will say, though, like, I like the sentiment of what Skank was doing. Like, manning up.
Sure.
Going to the man's house and be like, I slept with your wife, and that's because I'm an idiot, and I have issues, and it's not you, it's me. And, like, punch me in the face, something like that. But he's like, I'll win this game for you, Dad. Which is not his dad, but it's like it kind of had that sentiment, like, win one for the Gipper. I'll do this for you, man.
Right.
And it's like, well, okay.
And I didn't even, and I think part of it too is it's not like Skank and the mayor had some kind of relationship.
No.
Like up to this point,
you
know what I mean? It's not like I really love Skank. Like you said, it's some kind of like surrogate father thing, and it's like there's massive betrayal. It's just like, I'm a guy on the team, I'm banging your wife, and now I'm sorry, but I'm gonna win this game for you.
Yeah. The judge kind of is like their general manager in a sense. Like he does allow him to be on the team, but so like one thing that I kind of felt in this movie, and it's going to tie in kind of exactly what you're talking about, is in some ways, I thought there's these weird storylines for some characters, but on the flip side, I felt like they kind of worked for others. So, like, in a way, like, I like the judge's, like, role in this kind of storyline. Like, a guy who's cheated on his wife is because he doesn't show enough emotion, and, maybe through, like, watching this game and having this, like, experience, like, he grows and can show his emotion in public. Like, I kind of like what it could have been for the mayor, the mayor. But I hated how it played out for Skank.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel this, like, in the same regard, like, John, Russell Crowe's character, he has a storyline where he is like, he's growing old and he has to learn, like, should he be moving on or changing, like, should he become a coach? Is he still good enough to be a player? Like, he's dealing with these issues with growing old.
Yeah.
But then he's also dealing with, like, his wife is meeting up with, like, an old flame, and he's super jealous, and, he can't make her smile. It's like, so there's this rewarding, like, arc for his wife a little bit, where she can have this great speech of how she loves, like, she chose him and stuff, and it feels like it kind of works for her, but it doesn't work for John, because, like, jealousy is, like, it doesn't really serve any purpose in this movie, like, why he's going through that emotion.
Yeah.
But then he's also dealing with other storylines where I think he is growing, and I like him. And it's like, again, there's too much stuff going on. Like, the arc works for, like, half the people in the arc, but not the other half.
Yeah. No, and I can agree with that. You got the Charlie character that's also kind of part of that love triangle, Hank Azaria, which I'm not gonna lie, he feels very miscast in this movie. Like, he came from this town. Like, and I guess that's part of it, is he's supposed to kind of feel like an outcast, but it almost feels like, I don't believe you ever lived here. You know what I mean? Like, he does not fit in at all with this community. And again, like, that's the point in a sense, but it's almost so unbelievable, it kind of takes me out of the movie a little bit.
Yeah.
I will say, he strikes me as like a New Yorker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not somebody from Mystery Alaska.
Right. But I kind of liked how he was kind of getting reconnected with the town a little bit through the game.
Sure, yeah.
But again, I'm enjoying seeing him, like, be passionate about the town. I don't know if it feels earned, though.
Right.
It's other than, I guess, Mike Myers' character was maybe taking some shots at them, but he really wasn't, because he was saying, I would adopt every one of these guys.
Well, because he just kept flip-flopping through the whole game.
But, so, I don't know. There's just a lot of things I feel like it's half pretty good, and the other half is not so good.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. And you know, like I said, I like the angle of, the guy coming back to this town who like felt kind of like the black sheep, went away, made a big name, somewhat big of name, or is trying to make a big name for himself. And but and but it is interesting to have this where it's a guy who dislikes this town so much because he claims to, at least. But he wrote the article about them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then like he did bring the Rangers.
Sure.
Like he did all of these things, and and I get it. Like there is like a self-serving element to it because he's getting money out of it, and I do think the little kerfuffle when he gets drunk later and like drives the Zamboni or whatever, and he gets pulled over by John's character, or the Russell Crowe's character John, and he even says like it's all about saying F you to this town or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I do think that I guess is part of it.
Yeah.
But like I said, it feels muddled. Like, do you hate this town or not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just or too thin. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and like I guess even like his like pursuit of John's wife.
Right.
Is like, are you planning on stealing her from her family? Or is this just harmful, playful kidding? Banter. I can't really tell.
Yeah.
It just, again, a lot of things that could be explored more in depth, and like it just feels like it was just scratched on, maybe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very, very skin deep on a lot of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Another thing, again, it's weird because I like these parts of the movie, but I just don't know if they like work all together. But it's like the town versus Price world is like the storyline that comes in very early.
Yeah.
And I guess they just finish it at about the 40-minute mark. Like wipe your hands clean with it. We're done.
Yeah.
It never circles back after the court.
Yeah. I did not remember there being courtroom scenes in this movie, so that was kind of like, oh, I didn't remember this kind of did this.
Yeah, there's really only
angle.
2.5.
There's 2, but still, like I didn't remember being in a courtroom at all. But yeah, and this is another scene that is super muddled. So like, you have there's like the one part when they're in court and Pruitt, Bailey says like,
I'm fat.
Right. Well, but he also is like, he tells Connor they're not going to lock up the best scorer.
Right.
And the attorney hears that.
Right.
And you think, from the look on the attorney's face, like, I'm going to use this, like the prosecutor, right? And it's like, or whatever. And he's like, I'm going to, it's like, the look on his face makes him think, like, I can use this information, like, to turn this case in my favor.
Right.
And I maybe get a mistrial. Thought
the same thing.
Right. And then nothing comes from that.
No.
It's
almost,
it's weird.
Yeah, it was very weird. I almost feel like, did the actor, like, misact it? Like, was he supposed to be like, oh no, like realization, like I cannot win this case?
Right.
But that's not how it played.
Not for me.
To me, because the next scene, which I actually thoroughly enjoyed though, because like Bailey like just plays this like lumbering kind of hick.
It's weird. I wrote it down like weirdest courtroom scene ever.
But I think he was playing to the jury, as we later find out, right? Like he's just trying to be everything that like Price World thinks they are. A bunch of dumb hicks. He's like, sorry, I'm fat, just making the jury laugh. Like, this is not a serious thing. We're not going to take it serious.
Yeah.
And then the jury, like, comes back and, of course, like, not guilty, and they should be paying us. He got, their rep got shot, and they're rewarding damages. So, like, I don't know. I just thought it was funny how the town kind of rebelled, and unrealistic too. But I did like that how the judge chastised them for that.
Yeah, I think I like the notion of him chastising them for that, like, well, and like focusing everything on the game, because that's obviously like the central story of the movie is the game. But the problem that I had with that was that I don't believe that was why they did what they did.
Like, you don't think they were trying to get Connor free just to play in the game?
No, I honestly think it was like we don't want Price World or whatever to come into our town and destroy our town.
Sure.
They hate us. They all think we're hicks and dumb, like you said.
Yeah.
And like we don't like the corporate world trying to come into our small town. Sure, the game is part of it, but so because of that, like I feel like it was like the judge's speech was almost like shoehorned in just to make it like connect to that like core storyline. So I felt like that was a little weird.
Maybe, I could see maybe like the jury being on both sides of the fence there, and the judge only focusing on one at best. But that does make me like also question Burt Reynolds' character in this. Like, I actually think Burt Reynolds plays the character, like acts well. Like, I like he's
Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, he's Burt freaking Reynolds, man. But like, he does seem like there's some questions about like what his motivations ever were or weren't. Like, why was he so grouchy? I don't get why he was such a grouch, and I don't think the movie ever explains it. And like, to you, as your point was just made, like, he's upset that the town is all about this game, but then he ends up coaching in it. It just seemed like they didn't know what they wanted to do with him. Really,
I agree with that 100%. I think as far as characters in the movie go, while I do love Burt Reynolds, I do think that the character itself, they didn't know what they wanted to do with. I think that it's like they needed him to be multiple things at the same time. And, so there are elements of it I like. I like his issues with his son, and I thought, that dinner scene, you think just because you scored 2 goals, you played a good game today. Right. Like, I thought that, it was
feels like a real sports movie.
Right. It feels exactly like, and it feels like they're trying to say, okay, this is a guy who did play, because they keep saying, oh, he played 2A. He played 2A, he got out and he played for a while, but then he came back, or whatever. But he never made the Saturday game.
Right.
So I think
and his son has, obviously.
Right. And I think like so that core element is interesting because the whole thing revolves around the Saturday game.
Right.
So it's like he was the most professional player to ever like come from this town, but he never played in the thing that's the most important to them.
Right.
So that is a very interesting hook. And I think if they had kind of stuck with that the whole time, and like gave like some kind of resolution to that, like I think that would have felt more fulfilling. But you're right, like it's almost like he just fell into the coaching role.
Right.
By the time that the game came around with the Rangers, they needed a coach. John's like, okay, I'm gonna play.
Yeah.
Like, which is, again, it's just kind of almost like a throwaway thing. It's like, okay, well, I can't coach. You're gonna coach, but I need a captain. So John Beebe's playing again.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? It all just kind of like the pieces just fall into place pretty easily.
Yeah. They kind of like abandoned the dad Birdie drama too. Like you said, it was a very interesting hook. Like, why are you not proud of your son? Like, is it just that you're jealous? Is it as simple as that? Or is there something more to it, or something you're trying to protect him from? But they don't ever explore that in any way. And really the only resolution is at the end of the movie, Birdie makes a pass, and so now his parents now he loves each other again.
Thing. Right, that was the big thing, is Birdie passed the puck, because it's like, oh, but he never passes, and then they say at one point, like, you don't pass the puck, you sit. It's like, okay, well, that's like setting the parameters of the weakness and need. So,
but when we last saw those 2 characters, they were like hated each other's guts, and now they're it's just coach player relationship. It seems relatively unbumpy, no real drama there.
Sure.
So it kind of seemed like I said, again, they had something, this really interesting idea, and then they just kind of pivoted on how to handle it. Like, Birdie will just make a pass and they'll make up.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the Stevie Weeks character, which I thought was, I guess if there was like so this came out the same year as American Pie.
Right.
And
very 99.
So, right. And I think like the Stevie Weeks and Marla like storyline like feels the most of like that teen sex comedy of that
we had to squeeze a little of that in here too,
right? And like so and I get him in relation to John Beebe's character, the young gun, like trying to come up, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, because I do think that's another interesting storyline, and something that I think kind of makes the John Beebe character kind of complicated for me. But going just sticking with Stevie Weeks and Marla, they have the gratuitous, like, kind of funny, goofy sex scene-esque scene where like they're in the snow plow, and like, oh, like, she's like, we should have sex because I don't want you to leave me now because you're in the Saturday game for another girl just because they put out or whatever, and he's very gentlemanly, which is good for this the character, which just makes her want to do it more,
right?
But then obviously he's a premature ejaculator, and it's funny. It's a funny scene, but I will say, like, I don't know if it hit as funny as it was supposed to.
I don't know if it does either, because it, like, everything up to that point didn't make it feel like it was a comedy scene. Yeah. Like, it kind of, like, she was going through something like, I'm afraid of losing you. And, like, he's like, no, I love you. So, and then it's just like, really like far out joke.
Yeah.
Like I came in the condom kind of thing.
Right.
I think they say it, later in the movie.
A couple times, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like it's weird. It's hard to like get a joke when you don't know it's coming, and you think of it like, oh, that was a joke, and it's now too much time has passed to laugh, kind of thing.
Right.
So.
Well, and especially like when you do like some of the callback stuff that they do with it, with like her mom and her, and the judge and all of that, and then like when he gets like the crap knocked out of him, and he like comes to and he's like, "I'm a premature ejaculator,"
right.
Which again, it's funny, but it's just
yeah. Again, it's a little thin, and then I'm like, okay, this is like a build up to him having a great sex scene at the end, and they don't let him do it. And that's horrible.
Right, and in fact, they even like go as far as saying, like Marla says, like, "Oh, we never did get to have sex." Like, "Oh, I'll be back in a couple of months."
We'll do it off screen, yeah.
Right. So it's just that. So
he's in no hurry.
But again, that would have been just one more thing in this movie, and I don't know if it needed it. But one thing I will say before we maybe move on from the Stevie Weeks character is, I was so. It's interesting how much this movie isn't about him for them, like literally opening the movie with him.
Yeah,
like he's skating the river, which is like a great visual.
Yeah, showing the speed, and that's kind of what they're famous for here is how fast they are.
Right, and like this whole thing is like, oh, Stevie Weeks is gonna come up and he's gonna, he ended up taking John Beebe's spot and all of that. But like, I feel like for the rest of the movie, he just kind of disappears.
Yeah, he's definitely a background character.
Like even in the game.
Yeah.
The big game.
He scores the opening goal and then you don't see him again.
Right. It feels like they kind of were trying to put a lot of weight behind this kid and then just buried him.
Yep. It kind of matches like everything we're saying. Like it's great build up.
Yeah.
No execution on actually being able to finish it.
Yeah.
But let's actually talk. I want to give them credit too. Like I do want to talk about how they finish this game.
Right.
I think the way they played the New York Rangers, I liked a lot of what they did here, like movie making wise, and that like I liked some of the pregame stuff and how they how they worked to try to get an advantage. It was kind of like cutesy and funny how the mayor asked Little Richard to sing the longest version of the national anthem he could.
They actually got Little Richard, which is cool
because he knew it would like freeze the Rangers as they were watching. Like I like that kind of cutesy stuff.
I agree with that, but do you honestly think that these players because we know the makeup of like the NHL, like these dudes are from Canada or from Russia or from is this really gonna
they
freeze
play
them
inside
out?
though?
I guess that's fair, but you get my point. It's not like it's like these guys are all from Florida,
right?
You know what I mean?
This is a big change,
right? They've never seen snow in their life.
Yeah.
So that while it was funny, it was almost like just knowing hockey and hockey players. I'm just like, okay, like I get it,
maybe,
but I don't know if I buy it.
Well, I just like the idea, I guess, of like the town doing everything they can to like get any advantages they can.
I do
they had
agree
all
with
the
that.
disadvantages, right? They put in the boards that they weren't supposed to, and all that stuff. So, and then they get peppered early in the game, like their defense is on its heels, but because of Stevie, they end up like finding the early goal and stuff, and then they get an early second goal. And I really, really enjoy, after the end of the first period, they go into the locker room. They're all on cloud nine. Like, they can do this. Like, the town is just like, holy crap, just the emotions on, cloud nine or whatever. And then the second period goes horribly for them. They give up 5 goals. They get totally outclassed. The Rangers are now using a heated dressing room in between shifts. So the cold is no longer a factor.
Right.
And then they come in for the second. And then they come in for the second. What an evil thing that, the evil team that uses air conditioning.
Right.
But then they come in for the second period intermission, and it's just like the complete opposite. Like they're dead quiet. They're like, you hear pin drops in there. And I really like that contrast of how they kind of fluctuated with that emotion of a sporting event.
Yeah, they definitely, went through the ebbs and flows of the game pretty well, and I think adding, we'd mentioned like the Mike Myers cameo and stuff like that. I think the reaction from the commentators, where it's like, after the first period, like you said, like they did the cut in of Mike Myers doing his.
Yeah. I love these boys.
I love these boys. I want to clean them up, and I want to adopt them all, and I'll take them home. And then the second one is like, oh, they're terrible. They're gonna lose. Like, this is just so bad.
They got no chance.
They got no chance. Like, so I think, it does kind of it's fun to play with like that kind of emotion through a sporting event because
and those hot takes are real,
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, you watch it. Obviously we watch. You and I watch football every week. I feel like we see that every time. Like you have a good quarter or drive to drive, right? Like it's like the commentators like change their entire outlook on a team. You know, if depending on whatever happens.
Yep.
And so I think that definitely feels realistic and kind of draws you into the game.
The judge then has his like coaching moment because in a good sports movie you have to have the coaching moment.
You gotta have the coaching
moment. Judge's thing is he reverse psychologies Russell Crowe's character, and he says we're getting destroyed. We're going to just play this third period very passive, basically like play prevent, and we're just going to keep it close so we don't get embarrassed. And that just pisses John off, and he then uses that to inspire the whole team, and you can just see that little smirk and Burt Reynolds' eye showing like, I did that on purpose.
Smirk and nod.
Now that's the miracle classic. They do that 8 or 9 times very efficiently. This was their one.
No, I agree. And again, it kind of like because this whole idea like they can win this game. That's the thing. And like I said, I do find it a little weird because again, you kind of like built up this team like. In the beginning so well of like, they are good. Like this is the thing, they're real scrappy and they play their game. But
then they didn't let them play their game though because it's 5-on-5, there's boards, there's clean ice.
Right. Which is interesting. Like, they make such a big deal out of the game that they play and then they just go and play the Rangers game, which does seem a little weird.
It was. I thought that was going to be Charlie's arc where he was going to fight to get the rules back in their favor, and then they're like, no.
Yeah, I admit that was also that was a little weird, but so they come out in the third, and obviously they kind of take back momentum, and then they I think the last they put a lot of weight on the last 43 seconds, because they're down 1 goal now, and
they were down 2, and they scored 43 seconds. Now they're down 1,
right? So, and then they go with the Rocky ending.
Yeah.
Which I think it works, for this because it is like the whole thing is just the proving that they can even like play with these guys.
Right.
Which, I guess is interesting going back to what I was just saying, just this idea of like, were they good? Are they not good? Whatever. I guess for me, it's almost like this weird kind of muddled version of like the Mighty Ducks. You know what I mean? Where it's like, but they want to tell you that the Mighty Ducks are really good in the first 10 minutes of the movie, and then they spend the second third of the movie being
they're not as good
the Mighty Ducks, right? And then it's so they can kind of have this like scrappy ending. It, like I said, it does feel a little weird to me.
I mean, I think it feels classic sports movie. I mean, I think if they made it close, if they end up tying and winning, then I'm like, all right, this was too much.
Sure.
Them losing, I think, made it feel a little better for me.
Yeah, I mean, it probably does make. Yeah, like I said, it probably does make the most.
But the
sense.
town doesn't like embarrass itself either. The town's still going to be really proud of them and still have that weight of those players and stuff. So, but there's other things they could have focused on too. Like they only had 11 players. The Rangers had 18. They should be like absolutely exhausted. When you compare to with the. So there's a lot of things where it's like they could have built up the teams like. Reasons why they're not going to win, even though they are really good.
Yeah.
But they didn't build them up enough to think to keep in the forefront of the mind of the audience. Remember, like, wow, they're overcoming not just the Rangers, but they're overcoming the boards and the clean ice and the 5-on-5 and they have 7 players less. Like we're overcoming all of this.
Yeah.
And then you would have felt better about it. But they don't. It's just they don't keep it at the forefront of your mind enough.
That's true. I definitely agree with that. But again, they kind of have the post-loss respect, quote unquote, like scene where like the Rangers are tapping their sticks on the ice and all of that, and then but I will say it was kind of weird. Was like, did the town really need to be coaxed into cheering? Like that's it. Like this is your team.
You should be proud of them,
right? Like that moment definitely felt weird.
Yeah,
where it was like the
cheer.
Judge had to do the slow clap. Like, dude, this was a slow clap moment.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there was like, or I give you a moment to be like shocked that it didn't go in. Like maybe they just expected that shot was definitely going to go in, but it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't, and then they just stand there like, what do we do now? Like,
Yeah.
do we leave? Like, no, you cheer on your guys who just battled a freaking NHL club.
Right.
But yeah.
I agree. Let's circle back to BB for just a little bit, because obviously he is. I mean, there is a star of this movie, it's John Beebe. Like,
sure, it's Russell Crowe.
Right, it's Russell Crowe, but it's also but this is also pre-Gladiator Russell Crowe.
That's true.
Which is an interesting Russell Crowe, because I think everything pre-Gladiator is kind of, because you got like Romper Stomper, Virtuosity. Did you ever remember Virtuosity with Denzel? So like this era of Russell Crowe, I think is interesting because it's kind of like proto Russell, if you will.
That's fair. That's fair.
Right. But so we talked about his arc, this idea of the old guy, which at this point it's funny because this is before he really gets old in life. So it's like, are you really that old?
Yeah.
Like, but,
sports players old.
Fair enough.
Getting replaced by an 18-year-old. Maybe younger. I don't know.
Right. That's true. But so this is a sticky point for me with this narrative, and it's one that it's not new. You see it multiple times, but this idea of the guy that just can't let go.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was a time when that narrative worked better than it is now, because I think societally, like, we're in a different place. So I think that's kind of an interesting element of this movie as well, is kind of like looking at it on a modern lens, for a movie that was made 25 years ago.
Sure.
So for me, this idea of Russell Crowe being like, I can stay on the ice as long as I'll need to, like, it feels like I should be cheering for him, and I'm not necessarily sure I always am, just because it's like, I feel like it becomes such a problem.
Well,
yeah. And then in the end, he's still on the ice anyway, because two of the guys end up getting taken by the Rangers anyway, put on the AHL team, and it's like whatever. But like, it's like I said, it's a narrative that can work, and it also can be annoying as well, I guess.
It's annoying in real life, but it is a real thing in sports. It still happens. Like, obviously, we just saw Tom Brady.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and he should have left the season before he did.
Aaron Rodgers in the NFL is doing it right now too. So it's like it is a real thing in sports, and I feel like you have to watch it through that lens, because like sports is so different. Like, once these guys retire in the NFL, like, they're not going to have anything like this in their life again, and they don't even have a developed really a developed skill set to do anything else.
Sure.
In a lot of sports, there's a lot of sports players like this is all they've done their whole life. So few of them go into like broadcasting or something like that. Where like in the real world, when we have these guys who are just like not making way for the younger people, when it's purely out of greed or something like that. I don't know. I just see that completely through a different lens, that it doesn't impact me when I watch a movie like this.
I mean, I agree and I disagree. Like I said, I think even in sports it's the same thing. Like I said, I mean, I think that there's a time when people just need to realize, like, this spot needs to go to somebody else, and you're just holding on. And you mentioned like Tom Brady, the amount of money that Tom Brady was making at the end.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That's Tom Brady money, and it's like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but you still have 50 years of your life to live. Like, what are you going to do? And that's a daunting thing to look at.
I mean, that's not untrue, but I mean, again, like, and like I said, it's just it can be annoying. It's not necessarily inherently annoying, but it can be. And I think for the most part they handle it pretty well with this. Like, and partly
they juggle it so much,
and they bury Stevie Week, so it's like whatever. And I like Russell Crowe enough that I think I catch on to the character enough that I can kind of give him.
Yeah, because he does. He does give Stevie props. Like when they go into the and it didn't really look like. I don't know, because we don't know what he would have been like if this New York Rangers thing didn't come about.
Right.
Because
more drama.
Yeah, like, was he going to be like fighting for that spot, or was he going to like just let Stevie have it and just start watching?
Right.
But we don't know, because then it turned into, well, we need more players, and he's like, oh, I could be if you need more players, then it should be me. Obviously, I was the last one cut. I should be the first one back.
First alternate.
And they're like, yeah, no, we're going to make you the coach.
Right.
And so
which
it's
also is kind of
well, we've never had a coach before. Why do we need one now? Because we do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Just kind of like
just
adding
weird.
that drama. And so, like I said, I mean, and I think it worked. Probably, I'm going to land on it worked overall.
Yeah, but almost because they didn't pay enough attention to it.
Right. Then exactly. Like, I think that's kind of, unfortunately, the truth of the matter.
So let's. Do you mind wrapping this up a little
Yeah,
bit? You
let's
think
do
we've
it.
explored it enough?
Yeah.
But we have to ask one question when we wrap discussions up, and that's, does this movie hold up? We haven't seen this movie in probably 26, 25 years.
Easily.
We remembered loving it. But as you circle back to it, what do you think? I know it's hard. I'm kind of on the fence here, but I'm going to make a decision as we wrap this up. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Hold up or not?
I think there's a lot of parts of the movie that do work, and I think are entertaining. Even some of the parts that don't work are still entertaining.
Right.
And I think so. So that goes a long way. I think the cast is kind of, I'm gonna say, underrated.
Sure.
Even for like the kind of mess of the script a little bit. Like I think Hank, even though with my issues I have with Hank Azaria's character, like being from this town, like I think he plays the character well. I thought, Lolita Davidovich was really good as the mayor's wife. Cole Meany is just great in most everything he's in.
Yeah.
I even liked Kevin Durant as Tree.
Yeah.
I think he was
big
kind
old
of
Tree.
Yeah, like I like the little bits that they gave him. Almost more so than some of the stuff they gave some of the bigger story arcs, to be fair, but like, that is what it is. So I all in all, I still had fun watching it.
Right.
So when I have to like say, did this movie hold up? Did it hold up in my mind for maybe how I thought it was 25 years ago? No.
Mm-hmm.
But I still enjoyed watching it. So in that, I'm going to say yes. You know what I mean? Like, I still had fun watching it. Is it one that I would like, maybe revisit again? Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not going to close the door on it forever. But, overall, it's not quite the memory that I had in my head.
I think I actually feel kind of the same way, where if you pinned me down and asked me, like, does this movie hold up? I'm going to say, yeah, I think it held up. I think, like, as I watch it, I'm like, oh, I like that. That was a fun scene, or I like that sentiment here. Like, if you watch like it individually, like scene by scene, and don't want the scenes to necessarily add up to anything like really great, then I think you're gonna be like, yeah, this was fun. Like every scene on its own is kind of individually fun.
Yeah.
If you just take it for that 5-minute section of a movie, I think there's like 35 good sections of a movie, but the sum of it, they don't add up to anything like really like sufficient.
Yeah.
Like the sum of the parts are greater than the whole, I guess. Yeah, like the parts are better than the whole thing altogether.
I think this, like, the skeleton of the movie is there. You know what I mean? It has the skeleton of a good sports movie.
Yeah.
And
there's too much. It's too bloated.
Right.
Maybe.
Like, but some of the muscles are too big, and some of the muscles are too small.
Yeah.
And like it's just
some
like
of the muscles work too quickly.
Right. Right. Exactly. It happens to everybody. It never happens to me. It never happened to me.
Happened to everybody else, but not to me.
It happens to other people, but not me.
So I do think the movie holds up. I think it's fun. I think it's worth a watch, and I would bet I do watch this movie before like 25 years elapse. Like I think I see myself seeing it before then. Like my last gap from watching it might have been 25 years, but I will watch this one probably before that. But like I said, it's not, doesn't mean it's great. It holds up.
Yeah.
Maybe not as high as I thought of it, but I still would classify it as holding up.
Sure.
All right, well, let's wrap up this conversation on Mystery Alaska. We think it holds up. It's kind of a mystery why, but we feel like it kind of holds up. So we are done. But the audience should not leave yet. We do not want them to leave too prematurely.
Oh,
that's not good.
There's a good slip in there.
It's bad. Didn't slip in.
It didn't.
It didn't. It was on purpose. So okay. But since you're not leaving early anyway, take the time to like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done so. Leave us a 5-star review if you can, because if you do, we're going to read it live on air someday. Don't forget, you guys can email us at carrayrob@gmail.com or reach out to us on Blue Sky at carrayrob.
Absolutely. You can now find us on Facebook at Car Ray Rob Podcast Network. Come on, see what we're doing over there. I think we're doing some interesting stuff. If there is a comment section on whatever platform you're on, by all means, let us know what you thought of Mystery Alaska. Did it still hold up for you? We definitely want to know. We are finishing up our season.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even believe it.
Almost.
But we will be back next week with our year-end special.
The year is over.
I know. I can hardly believe it. 2 years in. But that does not mean we are stopping.
Nope.
Because we are getting ready to go into our 3rd year, and it might be our best year yet.
I think it will be.
I think it will. And I'm going to kick it off with my first episode in 2 weeks of Say Hello to My Little Film. And I am very excited about this one because I'm going to do something, a type of movie I've just never done before.
Really?
Yes. And it is the polar opposite of how I started this year.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be really great. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Then in 2 weeks, Ray and I will be back with the first episode of season 3 of A Copy of a Copy.
Season 2 of A Copy of a Copy.
That's true. It says season 2. I'm getting confused now. We've got so many shows. It'll be season 2 of A Copy of a Copy. But we are kicking it off in a big fashion way with the Hunger Games and Battle Royale, which has become
a hot topic.
A hot topic recently, even though it's been a hot topic for a long time. But we will cover it. But it has resurfaced in the news as of late. But we will also be back next month with our brand new season 2 of Hello Movies, My Old Friend, where Ray and I are going to be revisiting the Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman racing classic Days of Thunder.
Let's speed into that movie.
I've got the need for speed, but we'll see. We'll see if it holds up. We'll see if we need it. We'll see if we need it, and see if this movie still holds up. But you are not going to want to miss any moment of it. But until then, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And remember, be defined by the films you love, not the ones you hate. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. Hello,